The first item that we put on is update regarding meter installations, and I think we all received the email from Corey at the Water Department. This data is a couple days old at this point, but total installed is 109, and then there were 24 places, locations where they did not do installs. And it looks like the reason is that in 6 cases, or 8 cases, structural issues that have to be corrected, and in 16, it's plumbing issues. And they have about 50 regular meters on hand and 15 or so of the ones used in so-called tight spaces. So they're good for another couple of weeks before they have to order any more.
Which is good.
So that's where we're at there.
Is Royce the same Royce that works at the high school?
No,
No.
but if I may, John, that he did give a
Royce
second,
Senior
a
is
note
the
shout
first
out
officer.
Okay.
to Royce Lancaster Jr., and his father is the one who works at he's a resource officer.
Okay.
And Eric Hartman, 2 employees here at the garage who have shown exceptional work ethic and attention to detail performing the bulk of these installations. So congratulations, those 2. Thank you for that hard work.
Yeah,
Yeah, they blew the goal out of the water.
That's right, we
pretty
did it.
cool.
we have a second team working or just one?
I think they started a second crew when they can.
Yeah, if they're public works, well, I guess it's sewer treatment plants, public works, they're
Yeah.
my assignment.
Yeah, well, I know the people that came to our house were really efficient. They were in and out in 10, 15-minute stops.
Yeah.
But they said ours was easy.
Me too.
So, anyway.
It's always nice to have these.
So that's that. And the big thing that we need to jump into is I don't know if Rick has anything for us in terms of the long-term budget projections that we need to talk about, but the big item is really starting to look at whatever adjustments we need for the water and sewer rates for the next cycle. And I know that Rick was hoping that by tonight he would have the preliminary audit. I don't know if there's any news on that.
We have first draft.
What does that look like?
It's quite a lot of information. I haven't heard anything in particular about it yet, but
Is it just a spreadsheet or is it a report too?
it's like 2 reports and like 6 spreadsheets that goes over. I assume if there was something majorly concerning, they would have said it in the email, but I don't know what the typical.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, well, I think our interest in it was mostly in seeing,
How
how the income and expense actually came out during the last fiscal year. And, and we need to get a handle on whatever expenses we didn't account for in the last increase. And my recollection is that those include the differential on the bond payment, what we guesstimated versus actual. And that's, I'm just shooting from memory here, 30,000, something like that.
For water?
Right, we had budgeted 195 on the water tower bond, and it came in at 218, 220, something like that. I don't remember exactly.
And we threw a number in for it.
Only that? 200?
Yeah, we weren't terribly far off.
Is that under?
Yeah, what we guesstimated was under
Yeah.
what the actual number is.
But we didn't include the 1 million.
Correct, and so we need to know what the payment and the terms are on that, so that
That's
we,
the infamous spreadsheet.
so that we know how much we have to raise during the next two
Is this
billing
for water
cycles.
or sewer or both?
Well, one of them is for water and one of them's for sewer.
Yeah,
The 1 million is for the sewer.
Sewer, yeah. And I think we lowered that to 885
You couldn't,
for sewer.
really?
I think we did. I think that's what we did last week. In that 10-year.
Oh, yeah, you're talking about the, payment as opposed to
The total, I
Yeah,
think, yeah, not
because
taking
we're
the total.
talking total loan, yeah.
Yeah,
You're talking about- yeah.
So the total loan may not be the full 1 million then.
I don't think so. Have you looked at the first draft of the audit? Do we want to pull that up?
I haven't
The
seen it, I haven't even
warrant?
looked at it,
Okay.
been running. I don't know how much we can absorb tonight.
Yeah, they're asking about how the numbers came in.
I don't even know. The first draft came in yesterday. Honestly, they were still waiting for some final information from us, and so I wasn't trying to make it a priority until I have what they call the real draft. So,
Is there anything that we need to do in terms of follow-up on the long-term budget projections?
From
I
like,
think that is where it would probably be good just to at least have a little conversation. So here are the updates since last time we met. Today, we got the terms for the note for the water tower. So those have been sent to the attorneys. If all goes well, and it needs to go well because Tuesday's our deadline, Monday night, council will have the numbers in front of it that have been reviewed by the attorneys for a $2.827 million loan, which is the 4.985 million minus all the grant money we've taken in, the way it was authorized in the original bond authorization, and at 5.0 something percent interest, I think it was, from Pasumsic, and that's a 1-year note payable either at the payment of the bond that we arranged with Vermont Bond Bank or at the end of a year, whichever comes first.
2.8.
2.7.
Yep.
So the number we've been throwing around for months was 3 million. In fact, when we did the math, it came out to 2.827.
Okay, but that's not just the water tower.
That's
That's
the water
sewer.
tower, the reservoir cover that's already been done,
Yeah.
and anything we have left over can go toward water meters. And at this point, those numbers are looking really good.
Right, and that's not covering any sort of debt service for the sewer department, or water department.
Correct.
Yeah.
However, it does pay. There was something in the neighborhood of $300,000. That's a very rough number. That was paid out by the general fund in advance of the line of credit for construction. And so, even after we pay off the line of credit and pay off that $300 and some odd thousand due to the city, my suspicion is that we'll have well above $200,000 to keep going with water meters. Okay, but it does not make any attempt to try and help pay down any of the other debt, no.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, because it's limited to the purposes for which the bond
Correct.
was approved. And water meters happens to be a purpose. So if you have 200,000 in crude ground numbers, that's about 450 millimeters.
Yes, and honestly, I'm being very conservative. Like, the numbers I've been given are much higher in terms of money we may have to be able to spend on buying water meters. I just keep saying until I see the bottom line, I'm not going to talk about more than a couple $100,000.
Was there a final number with the water tower in conclusion with that?
That's what I'm waiting for. There are still some final bills. The switchover happened on Friday, and so now we're waiting for final bills to come in over the next couple of weeks. And at that point, we'll be able to say this is exactly how much is left to be able to spend on other. So,
So of interest with the list of people who are unmetered water users, they're they're listing 704, and that less 100 plus 102. So that's 600 meters that we're going to
left to do.
Yeah.
I think it's quite possible we'll have enough money to do them all. I really do. I mean, we're averaging a solid $430 to $450 a meter.
Mhm.
So, and our guys are doing a great job
Yeah.
getting these things done.
So I
So,
just, it's sort of one of the positives,
Mhm.
Yep.
We've whipped off quite a bit on the list.
Yep, and Tom says, and Corey said to me as well, that they're beginning to see momentum building, like people are getting the word and they're beginning to call more and more. So what started as a really slow process to get people calling is beginning to speed up for us.
And with that, the word of mouth, wow, my bill's much lower. They're telling their friends and.
Yeah, though I'm really careful that that's not
They
what I'm
haven't seen
trying to
their bills
sell.
yet.
Well, but-
Yeah.
Because in the end, we know what's going to have to happen.
That's kind of the selling point that's out there.
It may work for a little bit, but it's not going to work for long because we're going to have to raise the overall rates because we got to pay the bills. So you know,
Yeah.
the basic line that I'm using when people ask me why should I do this, my answer is because it will create a fair billing system for every resident in Newport that we don't have right now.
Well, hopefully it will also make us able to figure out where our water loss is.
Exactly.
Because if there's less water loss, it's conceivable that the cost of water would go down as well.
I suspect that SciSab is leaking.
Yeah,
You suspect what?
SciSab is leaking. It
Uh-huh.
seems to be the oldest main in town,
Uh-huh.
from what Tom has mentioned. Service is a huge area. It's small, so it's under a lot of pressure to deliver that service. And the ground wouldn't show it. That part of town is so well drained, it would never pop up out of
You'd
the
never
ground.
know.
You'd never know. And it doesn't seem like our production or delivery match up, right? Based on,
I just looked, and when we projected the rates last time, we projected at 30% unaccounted for.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I really honest to God think that, yeah, we're possibly at that point. Then the
Fascinating.
question
It's
is-
the oldest neighborhood, right, on
Mhm.
water, pretty much.
Well, and Thomas made it really clear in conversations I've been with him that, you know, it's been on his mind to get those mains done
Yeah.
for a long time. We're gonna have to make a significant investment to make that happen.
Well, because that part of town was West Derby, and West Derby had its own separate water system serviced by the Raymond Reservoir up on Pine Hill. And
Where's Pine Hill?
Pine Hill is the golf course.
Okay. Oh, right.
There's a reservoir just south of where the golf course is now. And that serviced a lot of that side of town for the village of West Derby back in the day before 1918. And if you look in the charter, it talks about the West Derby water system, taking that on.
Hmm.
So, to go back to the original question, if we can wrap up that loan arrangement by Monday night with council, sign the papers on Tuesday, we've taken pressure off on that for about a month until we have to negotiate with the Vermont Bond Bank, right, for the next step. But Ellen and I agreed, Ellen Stanley from Pasumsic and I agreed the other night when I saw her, that as soon as that one is arranged, then we'll get serious about the other two loans, the sewer loan and the general fund loan for $1 and up to $1.8 million respectively. So Carrie has been trying to begin to run those numbers, and I'd love us to look at that a little bit tonight. We had very good, I mean, Pasumsic didn't push back at all on the way that we did our last 10-year projection for the water fund. So we're going to do the same thing again, which is basically we take the actual from last year, the budget from this year, and then we project it forward with a conservative 7% increase on both the revenue and the income side year after year. And then we make a series of notes about the big things that are likely to hit on the sewer fund that we're beginning to try and plan for. And just to be clear, you know, my hope, maybe it's a guess, but certainly my hope is that when we start talking about big money, like redoing a wastewater treatment facility, that we'll be in conversation with various potential other funders to help us with the cost of that. It wouldn't be something we'd be trying to absorb entirely on our own as a community. That money's out there. They just paid for a similar project out in Island
Brighton,
Pond,
yeah.
Brighton.
Yeah,
So Northern Border Regional Commission is probably our best bet to try and go after money to help with that.
they've got at least 3 or 4 other towns that are in desperate need right now,
That's right.
so.
That's right.
We'll see what happens with our federal government.
Like I said, I'm willing to call it a hope, not a guess.
And would Derby be contributing also to the cost?
For their portion of the ownership, yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, they reached out to me, the Village of Derby reached out to me last week in the midst of the final arrangements to cut us from their water supply and said, we hear through the grapevine, meaning they read the Daily Express, that you're talking about, you know, having to recondition the wastewater treatment facility. We'd like to be at the table for those conversations. So,
The town of Derby said that?
Village.
Village,
Yeah.
because they have a stake in it.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought that the village had a stake in the water process with us, and it was the town that co-owned the sewer. But honestly, I don't know.
I think it's the village that's in on the sewer, the town
Okay.
doesn't have anything to do with it.
So that's why.
Right.
Yeah, the town per se has nothing to do with it, it's village.
Well, we will certainly be inviting them to the table when we get ready to have that conversation. And I do think that the suggestion that Ann and Pam and others have made, that we begin that process of investigation and putting out a request for proposals and that kind of stuff ought to happen sooner rather than later. We shouldn't be waiting until a year from now to start that process. So, Carrie, can you kind of help us look at this? Is that okay, everybody? If we could, this is the one we started looking at this.
Did we look fully at sewer and just, well, I guess not, because we're gonna be looking at general,
And Chip has made some changes in this, right?
I don't think.
On the
we have.
loan amount, I think, primarily.
Well, I just updated, yeah, I think we had started updating it to 885 at the end of the last meeting, and I just completed updating it.
So this assumes that we're not taking a $1 million loan, but rather an $885,000 loan, because Chip's looking, I think, at the end of the audit numbers, is that right, Carrie, from the end of fiscal year 24, 25, and he's using the due to line as the number for what we would try and have the loan for in order to pay back the obligation from sewer to general fund. So if Chip were here, he could answer. I can't because I haven't been deeply inside it, but I think that's why he's lowering it.
So maybe some of these.
So it simply brings the sewer fund from a starting point of the negative 885 that the books show to zero.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And then it's our obligation to make sure that we don't run it in the red this year, right?
Yeah.
Which maybe this has, probably the revenue or the expenses have shifted a bit in the audit. Is that what you're thinking?
That could be.
So these might not be exactly the up-to-date numbers.
So from the point of view of our immediate budgeting issues over the next month regarding both the water and sewer, we're going to need a handle on how much the payments are going to be during the current fiscal year. In other words, the next 2 quarters.
Well, I suspect that we've got a ballpark with the first loan that Pasumsic has come back to us on, right? That we're going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 5% interest
Yeah.
over 10 years. So we can actually amortize it ourselves and figure out exactly what we're talking about.
But is it going to be monthly, quarterly, annually?
So the conversation we're having with them about both, the initial conversation has been that we would like to time this to be quarterly payments immediately following receipt of water and sewer bills. So that we would not have to, I'm trying really hard with the bank to start lining up our loans to match when our income happens, so we don't have to borrow money to pay loans and then turn around and pay ourselves back. I mean, we end up paying double interest effectively at that point.
Do we know if that has any, effect on like payroll? Like, any different? I mean, it's every 2 weeks, so I can't imagine it's a huge effect over the year. But having enough cash for that,
No, we think, as long as we're making decisions as a task force and as a council to bill for enough income to cover our expenses, then if we time our bills, by and large, we'll make that cash flow problem go away. So we won't have to, my hope is we get to late spring of next year And instead of looking at a nearly $3 million line of credit, it'll be some significantly or exponentially lower amount of money that just helps us carry maybe cash flow for payroll or that kind of thing in intervening quarters, right? But not all the stuff that we've been trying to carry, with our line of credit this year, for instance.
You know, we assumed that we would be making 4 payments for $220,000 on the loan, but we haven't made any payments yet. Maybe when the first payment is done and the second and the third, there will only be 3 payments to make in the 2025, 2026 term.
For sure,
And
actually.
maybe we are over budgeting how much money we will need in terms of the rate increase. Because if you only need 3, then you're
We're
only
rating
going
it
to
to
need
that.
about 170,000, I don't know, just.
Well, but I thought the water tower one was going to be, no,
It's
maybe I'm
different.
confused now.
It's-
There was one where you were talking about what was going to be effectively a 9-year term, 10 payments, because
No, that's the fire truck. It's hard to keep them all straight. On the fire truck, what we did was,
Yeah.
if we waited for a full year to make our first payment, it was gonna increase our debt or our interest payments by more than $50,000.
Right.
So instead, we timed our first payment, assuming the paperwork comes through. I'm still waiting for the paperwork on that one.
She responded.
Did she? Okay. So assuming we can work that out in the next week, basically we'll make our first payment on the 1st of December because we wanted to wait till the cash flow would come in on the tax receipts, and then it will knock out most of that $50,000
so
in
then it would
extra
be every
interest.
December. Yeah, that's right, because it worked out to be about 9 years and 2 months as opposed to 10 years.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And the same thing with respect to the amount that sewer owes, the 888 that we're talking about. If we're not even putting a loan together for another month or 2, then the first payment there may be only 2 payments to make in the 25, 26.
Well, right, that's what I was getting at earlier when I was asking what the structure was, so
Right.
that we could calculate.
I suspect that it will be 2 to 3 payments, and I'm not sure yet because I hope it doesn't take 2 months, and I think we want that loan to be arranged. My hope is by the end of October. And so my expectation with Ellen, when I talked with her the other day, was that we would work on both the general fund and the sewer loans to present to council for their approval on the 20th if everything comes together. And I just have to say, the last 2 weeks, it's gone slower for the first 2 loans than I wanted, so it may not work by the 20th. But certainly by the end of the month, we'll call a special meeting if we have to for council to try and get this all arranged by the end of October.
So the rate that you would be offered or that this group would discuss would depend upon how many payments on each of these loans have to be made
Yeah.
between now and June.
I think what you can expect is that it will basically be 8 months of payment divided into however many payments we work out in terms of the quarterly payments.
And then,
So it won't all hit us by quarter, but it will still be 8 months worth of payments if we take it in November.
and then it'll just be a timing issue as to when they're due.
Exactly.
In the sense that depending on the timing, there might actually be only 2 checks written in the current
Exactly,
fiscal
that's what
year.
I'm saying.
Mhm.
So we should be able to get to that number pretty quickly, actually. And you're right, we shouldn't be raising the rates more than we need to do what we need to accomplish with that loan.
The reality is that we'll have to budget it as though it's the full, because we're going to be, because we have only 2 billing cycles left in the current fiscal year anyway.
Mhm.
So it's all going to come out in the wash.
Those are their 8 months.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
We just need some numbers to work with to figure
So-
this in.
You know, as I look at these numbers, just to kind of do an initial glance at them, if you look at budgeted revenue plus loan right here, it's 1.848, so call it 1.85 is the,
Do you want me to just temporarily change this cell
to what?
to a lower amount for this year, since you're saying you won't pay?
You're
all-
saying this was calculated on 12 months?
Yeah, for year 1, yeah.
Yes, so for year one, we should calculate it on 8 months.
Yeah, because effectively, the last 4 months are going to be bumped onto line 11,
That's right.
because the fiscal year and loan year aren't going to line up perfectly.
Right. Actually, it would be 0.66, I think, right? It's a third of a year, Carrie, that we're giving, that we don't have to cover.
Yeah, 8 months.
But are you paying, how many payments are you making?
Well, it doesn't matter how many payments. It'll be, I suspect it will be 8 months of value divided into however many payments we make.
Okay.
So it's 2/3 of a year that we've got to pay.
Yeah.
Okay, so there you go. So in
So
the
then-
first year,
You
our,
have to add it on to the end too.
Yeah, you need a line 11, which way does it go? Lines go across or rows go across? You'll need a row 11 to
Yeah.
pick up those last 4 months.
uh-huh. And our budgeted, that's our budgeted revenue, including the loan. How did he do this?
Times,
And our budgeted expense, including the loan, comes out about, at the moment, 16,000. Yeah, only $8,000 more than our expense. Right, this line here, line M, if I'm reading it correctly. And this is basically the way our general fund worked. We don't want to be calculating it super high, right? You want it to be close to even. And so it runs the same way. In the next year, it would be 1.978 minus 1.969. So again, about $9,000 more in revenue than we would expect in expense. And those are calculating with a 7% increase, Carrie, is that right?
yeah.
And the cash, here's our interfund balance, right? So we start out with a negative interfund balance of 867, but we add in the anticipated loan amount. So for next year, our interfund balance is is at $9,000 to the good instead of almost $900,000 in the red,
Because we're taking a loan.
because we're taking the loan. That's when the loan shows up.
It's still about, yeah.
Yeah. Right, we still owe it, right? But
The money, the debt doesn't go
But
away.
it doesn't show, it doesn't show the
That we're-
debt being owed to the
Yeah,
general fund,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's basically the
The
difference.
balance is the interdepartmental stuff.
Correct.
Yeah.
Should we worry about year 4
Yeah.
when we go back to negative?
Yeah, well, is there a reason, and I know Rick and I and Chip talked about this, and it might be irrelevant because if the budgeted revenue and the budgeted expenses are different based on the audit, but is there a reason why the numbers that were put into the spreadsheet were calculated with a $9,000 difference? Like why was it calculated that the expenses would be higher than the revenue? Because that's why we're going.
This was a question actually for you,
Yeah.
Jennifer, because up until this last year, when you started working it again, right? The way that revenue was calculated was by just taking whatever the expense had been
Yeah.
and saying that's our revenue next
Yeah.
year, right? Which had no bearing on reality.
Paul ran most of those figures.
So my assessment was that basically Paul and you, I think to some extent, said, okay, we're going to try and come up with a rationale
Yeah.
for the revenue side, and it's not going to be an exact match, but it clearly has to be more than the expense.
Yeah.
So, but I wasn't inside any of that actual calculation with you.
We went back and forth. A lot of those Paul did just from his background knowledge. So I did a double check where it just, might have looked weird to me.
Yeah, because we're just gonna keep going into the negatives if the expenses are $9,000 higher than the revenue that's being brought in.
Yeah.
So that's why you see it
But
going
I think
$9,000.
that with rate increase, we can address
Adjust,
that.
yeah. I just wasn't sure if there was a reason that it was
Oh,
set
I
up
see.
that way.
I was reading it backward. Yes.
It's the opposite
It
for water.
was opposite from what I was
It's
saying.
the
Yeah.
opposite for water, which is probably what you're thinking of.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because water, the revenue is like $5,000 higher than the
You know what it might be? It might be because these are adjusted for the 50,000 of meters, or the 25,000 of meters, because the meters were split between the two when we initially did the figures. So it depends on, then the income was projected wrong because we had 25,000 more of expense in sewer. and we moved that.
which we eventually adjusted.
Yeah, we took the 25,000 expense of sewer and tossed it into water.
But we may not have adjusted the revenue side at all when we did it.
Yeah. But that would
There's
mean that the
25.
water would be the one that should be running negative.
No, because we took the expense out of water
Other way
and
around.
moved it to sewer.
No.
No, you're right, we did it the other way, you're right, it would have changed it the other direction.
Yeah,
Which you can see like with water.
I thought you were already corrected for that. I think Paul,
I'm not sure Paul did it. I know we corrected the big line, I'm not sure about all the detail lines.
yeah, and what we don't know is where these figures are from, or if they're from what Paul did.
They're from
Well-
whatever was presented to council.
Yeah, insofar as, so, okay,
So if it was presented to council, that's before we moved them,
In May,
I think so.
okay, and it might be that what's in the audit evens this out, so we don't have to go too far into it, but we were all separately wondering apparently after last week, but yeah.
so here's the other thing that happened since we met. That big problem we found last Wednesday night, which was that Chip had used the original numbers from March when he entered them into NEMRIC. Carrie took care of that the next day. So this is now, the NEMRIC budget now matches what we recommended and what council passed on the April 30th date, right? So I think really what we're saying is that, Carrie, you and I need to call Paul and say,
Ask him if there's-
would you be willing to come in and just sit down and look this over with us and make sure that it resonates with what you were doing since you were the ones inside these numbers?
Yeah.
And we need to match our starting numbers with the actuals from the audit, which we'll have, I think, by Friday from KBS.
And you might have a reason why he did that. But, and if it's something related with meters and it's more of a one-time this year.
It shouldn't
I'm
flow
just-
through.
Yeah, which I'm doing obviously, because we
Because you don't know
have
what to
that,
do
yeah.
except to make it flow through,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it
I
might
mean,
be that it's,
unless we see the detail, we aren't gonna know
Yeah.
where
that we're gonna drop that
budget
fee next
is.
year, or
Yeah.
whatever, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I can't think of anything else that was major that was
in the sewer,
transferred over.
in the sewer and water proposed budget,
Mhm.
$50,000 is already attributed on line 208 to water. And there's nothing in the
Oh, yeah,
sewer
because they
budget.
took it out of sewer. 'Cause
I'm sorry?
It was taken out.
Yeah, so if he used
Yeah, and
these,
that's what I used to, for the, yeah.
it's already been accounted for in.
Yeah, but it might have been, might have been lost in the shuffle between the two until we double check, unless the total figures are the same there, if the grand total is the same.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I think it may have very well have already been accomplished
Yeah.
by the time this is produced.
But
So-
did we do it in both halves, the expense and the income?
Honestly, Jennifer, if you're not going to be traveling, I think it really could be helpful to maybe have you and Paul come in together. Because I wish I understood this as well as either one of you does. I really don't. And I'd like the two of you to go over it carefully and make sure that we're starting with the audited numbers, and then that whatever budgeting work you presented,
The adjustments, yeah.
the adjustments have been accounted for, and then we can with confidence add the 7%, right, and see where we end up. And that's what we need. And I think if we were close to that by middle or end of next week, that would be fine. Then we could get the projection to the bank along with the total amount, which I think is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 888,000 that we're looking for on this one. And we're doing the same thing on the general fund right now. We're working on that one with the finance team. So we'll be able to give them both cash flow projections over 10 years. And then can you move to the notes for a moment, Carrie? So we just gave them simple notes on the water one that said, how to explain various things, about our various assumptions. It was not a very detailed look. It was just to say there is thinking behind this, right? And the bank didn't push back at all. They said that was what they were looking for.
The 7%, is that 5% interest plus 2% inflation or something? What is that?
No, 7% is an assumption that inflation is going to hit us at 7% per year which hopefully is not the
Pretty
case, but
aggressive, yeah.
it's very aggressive intentionally. And that whatever it is, we're gonna have to match it with rate increases. So, you know, what we're really saying to the bank with this projection, really more than anything else
Oh,
is,
okay, match
trust
as
us,
in-
we will make sure that we raise the rates to match whatever the inflation looks like.
Sure, but plus more realized costs.
Yeah.
Better realizations of real costs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not just inflation, but. Yeah,
That's right.
okay.
Yeah.
And they know that.
That's what we're aiming for, yes.
And hopefully
Because
enough to cover
there's
costs.
a huge amount of instability now in terms of anything that depends directly or indirectly on imported materials, copper being a prime example. You know, depending on what day of the week it is, the copper tariff in what country is anywhere from 25 to 50%.
I signed a,
Fortunately, not a lot of our industrial size stuff is copper.
Aluminum's been
but I signed a note, an interesting invoice today that had a $460 supplemental tariff fee built into it. So we're beginning to see those come through. They don't know what it is, they're just gonna make up a number and roll with it.
What percent does that amount to?
It was, on that one, it wasn't a huge percent because the whole bill was like 20 grand. But I think we're gonna see more and more of it.
They've done it with small vendors on the street. Amy got charged $400 and something postage for something that had not been there when she set up a particular order.
It was coming from Europe?
Yeah,
Yeah, I've been hearing about those too.
yeah. It was disgusting.
So, y'all, I think basically, Carrie and I think if we had that help from you and Paul, Jennifer, in the next, few days or a week, we could tighten this to the point where we feel some confidence about putting it in front of the bank. And I don't think we need council approval. This is just saying to the bank, this is where we think we stand. And then the bank will create terms for a note based on that, and that's what council will approve.
I know Paul was very hyped on trying to get more realistic figures from Tom,
Mhm.
that we had the breakdown between the departments.
So maybe that's what we're saying, is we want a meeting sometime early next week where we sit down, the two of you and Carrie and Tom and myself, to see if we can
Yeah.
settle on what those numbers really should look like.
Yeah.
And let Paul push, because I know he wants to push Tom on some of the specifics underneath it. That's fine with me.
Yeah.
What's your life like? Are there,
It's fairly flexible right now.
okay, are there days next week where you're at the shop or something we need to look around?
Nothing was set. I
Okay.
don't think.
All right, so tomorrow, Carrie and I will try and reach out.
So I haven't gotten there yet.
It's only Wednesday.
Yeah, I know. Why think about it?
I've been saddling her with a lot of work too.
Have you?
It's minor.
Coordinate
I'd
with
like,
you
I'd
as
like
It's a
to-
full-time job being retired. It is, absolutely. And I used to say to people, you just get to choose what you want to do, but the truth is you don't really choose either.
I'm trying to give her a break, but she loves it.
You know, the joke is, Patrick taught me the greatest thing, which is you can Gmail at certain hours, so you set these things up, so 2 in the morning I'm going, send
Oh,
it
the
at
schedule
7:30.
send.
Yeah, because if not, I get up
I
at
like
7 and go,
schedule
oh, yeah.
To Patrick's benefit.
That's a good practice. Gives you a chance to think on it.
Cancel your draft when you make
Yeah.
Yeah.
or
I use
rephrase
it too.
something.
Okay, so I think that's enough for tonight on that. So probably the next conversation is about rate setting, right? And how do we've got a month.
That's my question: is do we need any information from downstairs before this next billing round is available? Is there any other? Because we're just using the same recipe that we used last time, just changing the numbers based on the income, right?
Basically, the one thing we have, which is good from downstairs, is we've got more of a split of who's above or below the minimum usage. And that's something.
Why?
we're gonna-
Because of meters?
Yeah, because
Maybe.
it just having the detail before, Paul made an assumption of what every meter was using. So we now have the real figures, and so many of them are below the 13.5. So it does make a difference because we are not getting as much.
So that might be honestly some of the tweaks that we make is that our equivalent unit is not 13.5.
It's
Like we
one
set
of
it at
those-
like 9, and those that are heavy users that
Yes.
premium rate triggers earlier, and the average person doesn't get screwed. You know, like
It technically it's sort of not, because we're paying the same. What it is it would make it fairer for the low
Yeah.
users.
For the low user.
Yeah.
And not the high users.
yeah,
So we'll just have to see. One of the more interesting is just looking historically and missing, obviously about 8 years in there, of the usage is dropping off, what's being billed, the efficiencies that are coming in that people are doing,
yeah.
which is a detriment to us because we've got the fixed costs no matter what.
Do we have the data for all the metered properties over time and their quarterly usage?
It's there, but it's not.
Easy to pull out.
No. The problem we have with NIMRIC is that it will report the stuff and you have to calculate back to find out the gallons because it reports only in the spreadsheet what the dollars are.
Okay.
So
So based on
what-
your flat fee and your extra
Yeah.
fee and your
So
hookup
it's
fee.
a formula that has to be applied to every single
Okay,
one.
but like what I'm getting at is if we have like 2014, a distribution of like the meters that are installed and what the average usage is, and then 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, even as the meters increase in number, we can still
If you're
see what
only
the average
talking-
usage is, and if it's going down across the
Okay.
board, we really should pull that equivalent unit back down.
So we've got the gross figures. What we don't have is really good figures because you've got some people who are using, 30,000 gallons. You've got the majority who are using 4,000.
Yeah. Wow, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, one of these things, I looked at it and said, I want to know what these people are doing because it was almost phenomenal, the usage that they had. And yet,
But maybe that's also a relic of the fact that we've just recently learned that our meters suck at low volume monitoring.
this wouldn't be low because it's registering so high.
For 4,000?
No, 4,000 is normal, 4,000 to 5,000.
I'm saying, but if we have a ton of people in the 4,000 range, we might be artificially deflating our low usage metering. Our efficiency losses could be the fact that we are underestimating those low volume users because our meters aren't calibrated to get low volume users as well as the high volume users. Just a potential.
Yeah,
we can't tell that without any major investigation.
You only see that in the bigger meters. And there are some, 2-inch meters as opposed to the 3/4. That's where the problem lies
Okay.
more than
So
the
big
small-
gauge with low demand.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's the one because it sort of flows through, you got,
Yeah, it's a trickle in a big
3-gallon
pipe.
toilet,
Yeah,
it just
yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
kick in.
Okay, that makes more sense.
So we've seen that being picked up. You can do a gross number of the meters and the amount of usage. And that's where you see that. And that I have for, I think, 5 years, and there's a gap of years that we could easily plug in. That's using the spreadsheet that you've seen or the printout of, basically the number of units and how much they've used. So you could get that. Historically, what we're seeing is a huge drop off.
Yeah.
And that's the main thing. So, the more meters we put in, the less the billing is. Fluke, but because of efficiencies that the higher users are doing.
Okay, I do think after we set the rates for the next quarter, we take those numbers and we take our time to figure out what should the actual equivalent unit be.
Yeah,
Because
at this point, we have some of them, but because we only have 2 quarters flowed,
Yeah,
we need
yeah.
a whole year to really flow the change in
the average
equivalent.
usage.
We could
In a drought year, which is...
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm just saying, I remember when I was looking at the comparables that no other towns that I found had anywhere near 13,500 gallons per quarter. They were all below like 9.
Yeah, and that's
Some of
one
them were
the things.
like 2,000, but but 2,000 was expensive, but every 1,000 after that was really cheap. Whereas ours is
kind of the
cheap
opposite.
for 13,000 and then really
And then
expensive after
expensive
that.
from there.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But because you've got the base charge in there, it really isn't cheap for 13.5.
No, probably
Yeah,
not. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, that's
But-
where we're making a spread on that, which is calculatable,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
yeah.
Okay, that, all of that, yes, and two other things that are on my mind. One is, we do have a quarter of actual now that we can be confident about, that we can print quickly from, in terms of what we billed and took in for revenue versus what we spent. Like, that number is available to us tomorrow. Carrie can print it
Yeah.
anytime we want, and it's right, it's correct in NEMRIC, right, which we didn't have even 3 months ago.
Okay.
So we've got real numbers to look at for the first quarter. And so the question is, what do you all need to get to the rate discussion we need to have? And then, Patrick, I just wanted to follow up on your research piece, because I do think that the council is going to need to be really thoughtful about how to do yet another educational moment about whatever you all decide to recommend, because the community doesn't really understand what we're doing here.
You're talking like November 1st there?
Yeah, exactly. So if we're going to raise rate, well, whatever the council decides on November 1st, we've got, what, a month and a half before bills go out.
But we have to decide it by October 31st.
Correct.
Sure. Okay.
That's what I'm saying. So once you've decided, then we have a task of educating folks. And one of the things I really want to be able to do this time around is say, here's what's actually going on in other communities. And I know that's a really hard number, because I learned from you that no two communities
Do it the same.
do their rates exactly the same way, right? And I don't want to compare apples to oranges. But somehow, if we could come up with, pick 4 comparable communities that people can relate to and say, here's how the actual bill works out in each of these 4 communities, and here's where Newport comes down with these current new rates that we're proposing, right?
Yeah.
Then we've got a conversation we can have to try and push back on the narrative that our rates are outrageously higher than anybody else's.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's the case.
Yes, and we got the added problem, which is, I think as Jennifer or somebody pointed out, we're headed into our low use months. So whatever rate we set can't be based entirely on the amount of usage this summer.
Yeah.
And given that fixed costs are an extremely high percentage of the cost of operating the system,
Or perpetual.
you have to look at making sure you're covering your fixed costs for all 4 quarters.
Mm-hmm.
And
So you're gonna have quarters that are losses and quarters that are gains.
depending on how you
Well,
price
yeah.
the variable, which is the quantity of water used.
And we've got some of that, and we can make it, more, but at some point, going back too far, it's gonna be invalid because of the change in the number of people metered and the fact that the rate increase is going up, so you're seeing people being more conservative going forward, yeah.
Well,
Which is what we want.
Exactly.
Except for the fact that our fixed
That it brings
costs
in less
are-
income, right?
It's the same thing as running a school. If you have to pay for a full-time art teacher, you only have 20 students, it becomes very costly.
Do we factor in our snowbirds as well too? Numbers we know
Probably
they're not
why-
gonna be here. There's
That's kind of what.
Seasonal rates
Yeah.
are actually.
We've got, well, we don't really have seasonal
No,
rates. We've
the-
got the
Like the
seasonal.
usage is so much lower
Yeah.
in those seasons.
Yeah,
because of-
and we've got, some of it, a lot of the camps are not metered,
Mm.
which is, a plus or a minus, so they're shut off. So we've got, 15, 20 that get shut off. We have swimming pools, which, when swimming pools convert over to regular meters, there's gonna be a loss in revenue as a result of that. Because the assumption is that you're filling, whatever it is, 15,000 gallons, whereas people only top off their swimming pools.
Right. Nobody with an in-ground pool drains and
Empties
refills their
it,
pool
yeah.
every year.
What about the above-ground ones? I mean, how many are above-ground as opposed to in?
Yeah, with an in-ground, when you winterize it, you drain off the top 6 or 7 inches, and that's it, and you put the winter cover on.
There are above ground ones that people winterize too.
Okay, yeah.
And then in the spring, you fill in that 6 or 7 gallons.
Yeah,
And Carl's right, I'm amazed at the number of people who are year-round, I mean, they own year-round homes, not just camps,
Yeah.
who pack up and go to Florida for 3 to
Oh, yeah.
6 months, and they're just stopping
That's a
using
whole
their,
quarter.
their water entirely for those 6
Yeah.
months.
So, I mean, that's the advantage of having why there is a base rate that no matter what, just.
You're gonna
if
pay
it-
that much.
If it goes to your house, you have to pay it,
Yeah.
you know.
So what does this team need to get us to that magical thing you all did the last time in the month of April? We've got a month to do what you did in April, to come up with the new rate structure.
NEMREC reporting.
Yeah, that's
But
easy.
is there a way to get Chip to extract the actual water usage instead of us back calculating it? Is it hidden somewhere in NEMREC that?
We've got it, we don't have it by use. That's
What do you mean
the
by
thing.
use?
We've got the gross number of gallons, we've got the gross income.
Yeah,
But we don't-
not per
we-
unit. Not per unit.
Yeah, per unit you have to do a breakdown, I mean, that's what these breakdowns are that I have.
But they're not. They must know the gallon usage somehow. They're measuring it.
They do, and it would be,
You might be able to build a custom.
That might just be in their
Yeah.
GIS, their road
yeah.
GIS program.
Let me see if I can come up and run it by you with the wording of what we are really looking for compared to what we're seeing on the
In
bill.
NEMREC, yeah.
Yeah.
And then ask Chip if he can do it.
Gallon.
Well, it might not be Chip, honestly. We might just get it straight from.
Water and sewer, or the water.
Yeah.
Oh, from the
Yeah.
input side.
They have to drive around and read all the meters.
Yeah,
So
but
that-
that's on a,
Yeah, but it's all GIS. It's all
They-
survey
it
app.
goes
It's
somewhere
in a
to get
database
to-
somewhere.
Yeah.
Logs.
but that's not gonna be this, well, I guess
It
it
would
has to.
capture
That's
every
what's
meter
calculated.
unit.
Yeah,
Bill.
imagine.
Who is that?
Jason.
Jason, yeah, well,
Would you?
Because that's what.
You ask him for that? It's
Yeah.
easier coming from you than me.
Yeah, I
So other than that NEMRIC information,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's still preliminary, the audit results for the last fiscal year for water and sewer,
Mhm.
and then trying to capture every major expense category that was not figured into the last rate increase, you know, the spread on the water tower actual payment versus the guesstimate that was thrown in, for instance, whatever that figure was, 20 or 25,000.
Sorry, say that one again, John.
Remember, we had put a figure in for water tower payments,
Oh,
and that figure may be low.
I think it might have been 100,000.
but it wasn't in sewer.
No, but we have to.
Oh, I'm right. I'm sorry. Right, you're
We're
trying
talking
to work on
about
the
what
water
we need
and
to
sewer
deal with
rates.
Correct,
Yeah.
Thank you. Yep.
yeah.
That was the difference between 190, which we estimated,
And 220.
220, that's
Yeah, it
up
was-
there.
It was 20
But
to
remember, we only have to make
the
two
$30,000.
payments, we only have to do it for 8 months.
8 months.
Right.
So that's the
Anyway, that figure needs to be accounted for.
Which we did in the water one that we just provided. We did that in the spreadsheet after
Right,
last
no,
week.
but I'm talking about to do the rate calculation.
Yes.
And then the same with the other bond, whatever it turns out to be. And then, are there any other significant expense categories that day-to-day staff is aware of that we missed in the last calculation?
And then you've
I-
got capital budgeting too,
Yeah,
capital
right.
expenses,
Right.
yeah.
That's 5%. What are we doing?
I think we ballparked at 15, but then that got eaten up by.
It was 5 when we finished.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's already been in the rate calculation.
Right.
That's not new, that's already there.
Yeah, but not, but we've got new capital expenditures that probably would come up. So, making sure those are in the projections too going forward. Because I don't think we have it for any major, like the Vector truck at some point is going to be replaced. Yeah,
So we're gonna have meetings on the 6th and the 20th, regular meetings. So if you all can't make a recommendation by the 20th, then we'll have to have a conversation about a special meeting on, like we did in April, right on the edge of the month.
When when is the metering happening? Sorry, the billing.
Good question.
Well,
November.
the current quarter ends, what, October 31, so the bills go out in November due December 15th.
Yeah.
We can't affect that one, but in order for there to be a rate adjustment for the quarter beginning November 1, that adjustment has to be approved on or before October 31.
Right, basically, we can impact the last 2 quarters of this year.
But so we're only projecting our adjustments based on the quarter until June 30.
Correct.
Yeah, we need to make sure.
So we can already do this with, they already have those numbers for us.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I thought we were waiting for this next quarter's meter results.
I mean, the only reason we would be doing
Okay,
that is
okay.
because it gives us a little more information to work with.
Yeah, except that if we actually do that, then we're trying to jam all the adjustments into the fourth quarter of the
Which is
fiscal
impossible.
year,
Yeah,
Right.
which doesn't make sense.
and might as well step it up and see. And
Every
then we
quarter,
can
every
take
quarter, every quarter.
That's right, we're just gonna keep
The
adjusting.
next one and see how close we are.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Because that was one of the things when, I saw the billing and projected what we projected. My feeling was we were going to be a shortfall of 20,000 for the year, based on what we had.
It'd be interesting to see
anticipated.
what your next round looks like,
Yeah.
Jennifer.
Yeah.
I'm learning to trust your gut. I'll be interested to test it this round and see.
I have to admit, when somebody said, "Oh yeah, can I talk to you about water?" I'm going,
Like, what rock can I hide under?
yeah. I was at recycling. There was no place to hide.
Oh no, it's gotten bad when you walk around with a bag over your head.
However, the person was very,
Yeah,
very
the
nice.
only
so.
feedback I've really gotten on water and sewer from anybody are from a few business people who all have said the same, variations of the same thing. 13.5 is too generous and we need
Yeah.
to lower it.
Yeah. And the joke is, when we did the 13.5, we had to fight for it. We had to fight to lower it down. Do you remember, Pam? Because you were arguing that we were screwing the families, and I'm just
I
going,
heard it all.
yeah, it's 150 gallons a day.
Mhm.
The normal is 225. I mean, that's really, you're hard pressed on that, 225 gallons. Anyway,
Okay,
we'll see.
all right.
Okay.
So it sounds like Carrie and I have some things to work on to get you some information for the rate setting portion of this.
Yeah.
So
And I'll get the background numbers. All I need
and
is
Carrie
some
will reach
extra
out to
time.
Jason and find out if there's any way to get the data on usage by meter, right? So we can look at how much each household is actually using.
Well, we do have it, it's just a back calculation.
Okay,
And it's not that bad, you just have to double check it.
okay.
There's gotta be an easier sort on it, but some of them are.
I agree. If you got a system worked out and you can just copy paste and it pumps out, that's fine. But
Yeah.
what I want to do is look back in time and see if our median
Yeah, you just want
monthly
every gallon.
quarterly usage
Yeah.
is going down below 13.5, because then we can do our equivalent unit adjustment without having to go
I think-
recreate 4 times 10 years, 40
Yes.
different back calculated.
The heroic,
Which you
Yeah.
could
Which is-
also,
Yeah, not even gonna be
you
what.
could also use that to determine, I mean, you might already have it, but what your difference is in usage every quarter.
We can.
That's
do
what it
a
would be.
gro-
That's
what it
would be,
We can
yeah.
do a gross one, and I do have the usage,
Enough
so
to-
I can do
yeah.
a really sort of gross one. The one thing you don't know is, because of the way it's divided, is because we had a base charge, everybody had the base
Yeah.
charge. If you used over it, then you had an excess charge.
Yeah,
And
so if we just had
so-
raw gallon
Yeah.
numbers, that would be the easiest to do.
But what you don't know is when you have the total gallons, everybody's being charged for 13.5, okay? And if they're all using 7,000, then your problem is you don't know they're using 7 because it's all calculated at 13.5.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so
So
we
you-
need the number of
Yeah.
gallons, yeah.
So you can get, I think you have to do a sort of assumptions
okay.
and see how close we are.
And then there's one other clarification for expenses that may or may not need to be figured into the water side. which is that I have a note that I wrote from the September 24th meeting that Tom said that there's a $66,000 expense regarding well redevelopment that
Oh,
needs to be
yes.
accounted
Yeah,
for
I
somewhere.
think he was worried that it's not in the budget anymore.
He's right.
It was taken out.
Yeah, what happened was, we pulled it out when we were trying to slim the budget as much as we possibly could, based on his knowledge that there was, that $66,000 was sitting in one of the special bank accounts. And then we cleaned out the special bank accounts in our desperation for cash at the end of the year. So basically, we pulled it all out. So you're right, John, we need to make sure whatever we do over the next month, that 66K goes back in, and that we're covering it this year so we don't come up short.
You could use the 5%.
In theory, that's a possibility, that's right. As long as the 5% is real, right? Like, we gotta make sure our rates are high enough that the 5% actually exists. Because the 5% gets chewed up if we're not charging enough for everything else.
That's right.
So, but that's a good idea, Ian, that we should probably explore is,
I mean, that's one of the things historically we can get the quarterly usage, project what our quarterly usage might be percentage-wise.
I think if we can get the raw data from the water meter monitoring folks, that should have addresses. I should be able to link that with the meter type, whatever the hell we call it, municipal or residential, commercial, industrial, whatever. And if there's quarterly net usage, that's all I want. Like address. I don't even care about address. I just want like the class of what we consider it and the quarterly usage and the date, and then we can do a huge
You've got that,
justified
right? Yeah,
adjustment to the equivalent units, because
it's already there.
that's the only tool we have against the conservation measures, which will bleed us dry. Conservation measures are a good thing, but not for the bottom line. So like that's the biggest like dial we can tune.
that's right. Yeah, it's an awkward position to be in.
Yeah.
Because we're trying to encourage conservation, and we know at the end of the day, the more conserving we do, the harder it's going to get to pay the fixed cost.
Yeah.
Well, that may be true, but water is the scarcest resource on the planet, so.
Yeah, we all agree that this is what the right thing to do. I mean, we got to do what we got to do.
Well, give us the nearest stability where we can actually bank on.
After 6 months, I long for the day, somewhere distant future, where I'm going to be able to give, news without the caveat. We know this is the right thing to do, but it's really, really painful.
That's your next lifetime.
I'm pretty sure it may be, given what I've signed on for here.
Yeah, and it's remarkable how much the conservation measures come into play now when you go from dishwashers that use 20 gallons a cycle to dishwashers that use 2.5.
Yeah.
Washing
Same with
machine.
washing machines.
Yeah, same shift
Shower
that took
head.
place when we went from 6-gallon flush toilets to 1.5-gallon flush toilets.
Yeah, exactly.
It's phenomenal to see the drop.
Or the stupidity of teaching kids to wash their hands by turning on the taps full and singing happy birthday.
Right.
And then washing their damn hands. It's you crazy. What the hell are you doing?
All right, is there anything else? I think that's it, right?
I don't know that there's really anything else we can do tonight as a practical matter.
I had a question for Corey about whether all the metering visits are also tallying up to the lead and copper, or if they're doing lead and copper in addition. Obviously, there's some overlap where some of the meters probably had already inspected lead and copper.
Yes, so we should get a report from him, not just on the meter installs, but
Yeah.
where are we on the statistics on
Yeah.
lead and copper? That's a good idea.
Does it mean when we say that we're all gonna conserve more, that really what we want to do is raise the base rate? What we're saying is, we're all gonna try to use less water, so less water will be used, but the facilities that the infrastructure the cost is still there for
That's right.
us.
Yeah.
And so
That's exactly what it
really,
means.
maybe we wanna think about, should the base rate be higher?
Yep, I think that's a great question.
Wait,
All right. Yep.
No, that makes perfect sense to me because the fixed costs are an extremely high percentage of the cost of both water and sewer.
Mhm.
And the variable costs are minimal by comparison. Some electricity and some chemicals.
It's interesting because most of the rates were based on, you had your fixed cost and your variable cost. And that's where we came up with the rate structure, except we took all of this stuff that was basically fixed cost and threw it into variable to make it, to incentivize using less water. And so that's one of the things that is totally screwed up, is the fixed cost is nowhere correct. Yeah, on those. I was just reviewing those, but the formula still exists for doing some projections.
The last thing I want to mention to y'all is that we have a meeting tomorrow morning that I'm excited about that will be Carrie and Carter and Frank and myself with a woman from, I can't keep this name in my head, the VCT something or the Vermont Conservation. Anyway, it's a group that is focused on alternative energy and energy recapture possibilities for municipalities. And so we're going to meet with them because I think that they can give us some information about the viability of trying to do a municipal planning grant that would be due, the proposal for which would be due at the end of this month, so that we could bring in some consultants to look at what our possibilities are around geothermal and methane recapture before we start into the massive redevelopment projects in both our downtown and our wastewater plant. So I just wanted you to know I'm trying to look a little bit further out. And interestingly, Kitty was the one who put this in front of me first. She met this woman somewhere and came home and said, "You got to meet this woman, it's amazing." And then I said, "Fine, put it on the calendar." She and Carter set it up. And then 2 weeks ago, I was at the Downtown Development Directors Retreat in Waterbury for 3 days. And my colleague from Bellows Falls couldn't stop raving about this group and what they were doing in Bellows Falls with this kind of consulting to find out, like, yeah, geothermal could really work here. And if you're going to dig up your main street anyway, now's the time to think about it. So I don't know what that might lead to. I just wanted y'all to know. I'm trying to figure out what the dominoes are that need to be lined up before we start into the wastewater engineering, survey next year and that kind of stuff.
Interestingly enough, Framingham, Mass. is putting in geothermal, and it's Eversource that's doing it, that does the electric and the gas for
Yep.
that area.
Yep.
And they're putting it in for free.
Really?
It's absolutely free for the people. Yeah, it's
If you have anything written on that, Jennifer, I'd love to see it.
I've got to look into it because it stops kitty corner to the house.
To where you
now.
are.
Yeah.
Yeah, just thinking about methane recapture at the sewer plant, it makes perfect sense. I mean, look at what 2 or 3 of the farms around here have done with methane recapture in their manure pits.
Right, and right now, we're not only not taking advantage of it, instead we've turned off the methane burners and we're paying Casella to cart the solid waste away. It's craziness.
And we used to have solar panels down there.
Really? There were solar panels over there?
Oh, yeah, it was
There still
state of the art.
Wait, you mean Excel?
No, solar panels at our sewer treatment plant.
Oh.
Yeah.
Isn't that where the garden is?
So I had a crazy idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a personal interest in the Clyde Pond Dam and
Yep.
dam breach scenario.
Yep.
And we have, like, the Watershed Association has the ability to do modeling related to that for the wastewater plant in particular in that neighborhood where Marlena lives, and that, whole Clyde Street. If we could figure out how to get somebody, I wouldn't expect the city to cover it. I also would expect that the dam operator has done some sort of modeling associated with flood risk for that dam. I don't know if that's like too spooky, but to knock on their door or to even go down this road, but I would be interested in looking into that.
I'm right with you, because that's the one I lose sleep on. Right? Like, I'm not worried about what happens when the lake comes up. It's
That's
it's remarkably resilient
Yeah.
in terms of what it does to protect the community. But if that dam goes, Johnstown, Pennsylvania, right, is what comes to my mind.
right.
Yeah.
And they moved the river.
And they moved the river, right?
Yes.
So
And a scary thought is like the river jumping back and carving through a bunch of landfill
Yeah, exactly.
It would.
And, you know, when we're having this conversation, Chip's been telling us, maybe he said it to this group too, that when he was in Bellows Falls as city manager, they had to do, I think he did say it last week, right? They had to do a 500-year floodproofing
Right.
to their facility.
Yeah, that's pretty significant.
Yeah.
Looking at the structures themselves, you're like, that's some old concrete.
Well,
So the
honestly,
ones that
Patrick, I mean, we're getting to the stuff that I consider
Great.
fun, right? Like, let's get to the conversation, let's get through this stuff
Yeah.
and stabilize so that we can actually do the long-range planning that protects this community over the next, 5 to 10 decades. That's what matters.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you've got interest in trying to put a proposal together, I think we want to see it.
Okay.
Do
You
you
might
have
see it, I mean,
copies
there's damn
of the
money out
new
there.
floodplain maps?
Pete's money.
Frank's got them. I don't have them at my fingertips, but yeah, he's seen
You
them.
get the wood stuff.
Can we get them? Because
Yeah, if we ask Frank.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't
Remove
know
those.
that they're,
Yeah.
We'll be
Yeah,
getting more.
that's
You don't know
something
that
you're
they're-
gonna run
I
into.
don't know
Yeah.
that they're published or shareable.
I think they are, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
But
know
I think, yeah, I'm not quite sure what stage they're in, but whatever we've got, we can talk about. Even if they don't want to put it out on the newspaper or something, we can at least,
I'll do a PRA for it.
yeah, please don't. Let's talk.
Just give me a damn copy.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So let's have a conversation with Frank and see what we can do. I don't think that should be a problem.
Good.
Good. Anything else tonight?
Nope.
No.
If not, we'll see you